The cheap burger became expensive. In February 2026, McDonald's chief executive appeared online tasting the new Big Arch burger. It should have felt casual. Instead, it felt strangely mechanical. He sounded like a manager presenting a factory item, not someone selling food people loved. The internet noticed instantly. This was not a weak chain begging for attention. This was McDonald's, a machine with roughly 43,000 restaurants around the world. For years, it reached 1 in every 4 people in the United States every month. It had trained generations to expect speed, predictability, and low prices. Then the numbers turned ugly. U.S. sales were falling nearly 6% year over year. The customer McDonald's was built for was walking away. And the real danger was not the burger. It was the broken promise. McDonald's began with a simple bargain. In 1948, the McDonald brothers were selling hamburgers in San Bernardino, built around speed, repetition, and low cost. Ray Kroc, then a milkshake machine salesman, saw something bigger. He later bought them out for $2.7 million, and the small burger stand became the blueprint for a global fast food empire. But the mission was never luxury. It was not culinary adventure. It was not food as status. It was food almost anyone could afford, delivered fast, in a place that felt familiar. That mattered. Every major crisis in McDonald's history came when the company drifted away from that basic idea. The brand did not rise because burgers were rare. It rose because families knew what they would pay before they opened the door. That trust became the product. And when the price broke, the product broke with it. The secret behind McDonald's was never only the food. It was the land beneath the food. In the 1950s and 1960s, executive Harry Sonneborn saw the hidden power in the model. Franchisees could run restaurants. McDonald's could own the real estate and buildings under many of them. Corporate could collect rent, while operators handled the daily grind of selling burgers, fries, and shakes. Sonneborn reportedly framed the company as a landlord, enabling others to sell 15-cent hamburgers on its property. That idea gave McDonald's control, stability, and protection from the chaos of restaurant operations. Even after Sonneborn and Ray Kroc split, with Sonneborn gone by 1967, the structure stayed. The landlord won. Then came the perfect decades. In the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, families needed cheap meals, quick service, and predictable restaurants for children. McDonald's fit that world perfectly. It expanded aggressively, and the Golden Arches became one of the most recognizable commercial symbols on Earth. By the late 1990s, the chain had chased growth too hard. Service weakened. Menus became crowded. Stores felt less sharp. Customers could sense the machine getting heavier. Then it broke. In 2002, McDonald's posted the first quarterly loss in its history, losing nearly $343 million. Its stock collapsed toward $12. For Wall Street, this was not just a bad quarter. It was a broken pattern from a company that was supposed to be unstoppable. McDonald's had to rediscover the bargain it had forgotten. John Cantalupo arrived with the plan to win. The idea was brutally simple. Stop getting bigger for its own sake and start getting better. The dollar menu became the weapon. Low prices pulled customers back through the doors. Then tragedy hit. Cantalupo died from a heart attack. His successor later developed cancer and died in 2005. Yet the turnaround survived, and same-store sales improved for more than a decade. The old promise still worked. But McDonald's would forget it again. By the 2010s, the enemy had changed. Younger customers were aging into spending power, and many saw McDonald's as processed, industrial, and outdated. Fast casual chains like Chipotle and Panera offered a different bargain. Pay more, but feel better about the meal. In 2014, McDonald's same-store sales went negative again. The cycle had returned. Menus were bloated, prices had risen. Growth had distracted leadership. Customers were drifting. It was 2002 wearing new clothes. In March 2015, Steve Easterbrook became chief executive after leading a turnaround in the United Kingdom. His first big move arrived in October 2015. All-day breakfast. Suddenly, an Egg McMuffin was not trapped in the morning. It was available at night too. That was popular. But his second move changed the financial engine. McDonald's pushed hard into refranchising, eventually moving about 95% of company-owned stores into franchisee hands. Corporate became lighter, cleaner, and more profitable on paper. Shareholders loved it. McDonald's returned about $50 billion through dividends and stock buybacks. During that period, the stock nearly doubled over 5 years, climbing toward $190 a share. But there was a cost. By moving stores off the corporate balance sheet, McDonald's shifted more risk onto franchisees. The old real estate machine became even more powerful. In 2024, McDonald's collected around $10 billion in rent from franchisees, while royalties were about $5 billion. $6 billion. Franchisees often paid 4% to 5% of top-line sales. Corporate owned roughly $40 billion in real estate, including about 45% of the land and 70% of the buildings tied to the system. The imbalance mattered. Corporate operating margins ran around 40%. Franchisee margins were closer to 10% to 15%. Many operators had personally guaranteed loans and real family wealth tied to their restaurants. The pressure did not land evenly. In 2017, McDonald's added ordering kiosks and leaned into delivery partnerships with Uber Eats. It even bought a dynamic personalization technology company, then sold it 2 years later. Burgers and artificial intelligence were not the same business. Then, Easterbrook fell. In November 2019, he was fired over a relationship with an employee. Later, more undisclosed relationships emerged, and McDonald's said he had misled the investigation. The company clawed back $105 million, one of the largest executive clawbacks in U.S. To them, every restaurant with golden arches was simply McDonald's. Then, costs surged. Ingredients became more expensive. Labor became more expensive. Regulations added pressure. In California, a $20 an hour fast food minimum wage began in April 2024. Franchisees had only one immediate way to defend their thin margins. They raised prices. A Big Mac combo that cost $7 or $8 in 2019 could reach $13 or $15 in many places by 2024. Over a decade, McDonald's menu prices roughly doubled. Viral photos showed $18 Big Mac meals in places like Connecticut. The internet turned receipts into evidence. That was deadly. The brand had spent decades teaching people that McDonald's was the safe value choice. It was the place for a family watching its budget. But by 2024, management admitted that households earning under $45,000 were pulling back hard. Same-store sales fell more than $1, 4% in 2024. Then, in the first quarter of 2025, sales dropped 3.6% in just one quarter. The brand had entered a dangerous middle zone. It was not premium enough to compete as a splurge against Shake Shack or Five Guys. It was no longer cheap enough to feel like an everyday solution. That is brand purgatory. Other forces made it worse. Cooking at home became more attractive after the pandemic. People spent about 80 more minutes per day at home than before. Fewer commutes meant fewer breakfast stops, fewer drive-through habits, and fewer impulse milkshakes on the way to work. Fast casual competitors sharpened their value too. If lunch costs $11 at McDonald's and $12 at Chipotle, many customers choose the bowl, helped by a product that has become cheaper per calorie while beef keeps facing pressure from smaller herds. Delivery added another wound. DoorDash and Uber Eats could make McDonald's look 40% more expensive after markups and fees. Customers saw the final number and blamed the brand, not the app. Then came the appetite drugs. GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Wegovy began changing food behavior. In 2024, about 15 million people in the United States were using them, with expectations of 26 million by 2025. These drugs suppress cravings for the very foods McDonald's built its empire on: high-calorie, high-fat, high-salt meals. Walmart executives said they could measure food spending changes among GLP-1 users. That is not a theory. That is a retail signal flashing red. So McDonald's returned to the oldest weapon it had: value. The $5 meal deal brought together a drink, fries, nuggets, and either a McChicken or a McDouble. It was not innovation. It was surrender to the original truth. McDonald's works best when customers believe the price is fair. But even that required negotiation. Franchisees had to carry the economics. Suppliers had to help subsidize the offer. Corporate could announce the vision, but operators had to survive the math. That is the tension inside the empire. McDonald's is not collapsing. It still has advantages most chains would kill for. Its real estate moat gives it resilience that rivals like Burger King and Wendy's do not fully share. Around 60% of operating margins come from outside the United States, giving the company global strength, even when one market stumbles. Its loyalty program also matters. Some members visit about 26 times per year, compared with roughly 10 visits for a typical customer. That kind of habit is powerful, but the lesson is sharper than the comeback. McDonald's did not lose people because the world forgot burgers. It lost them because the price stopped matching the promise. 3 times, across 3 different eras, the company wandered away from value and had to discount its way back. The golden arches were built on affordability, not aspiration. They were built for the parent counting dollars in the car. They were built for the worker with 10 minutes and a tight budget. They were built on the quiet confidence that the meal would be fast, familiar, and cheap enough not to think about. Once customers have to think, the spell breaks. That is why the Big Arch video mattered. It was not just an awkward product pitch. It became a symbol of a deeper problem, a company trying to sell excitement to people who wanted relief. McDonald's can launch new burgers, it can build apps, install kiosks, push delivery, expand loyalty, and use one of the strongest real estate machines in corporate history. But none of that changes the central bargain. If McDonald's feels expensive, it stops feeling like McDonald's. And that is the danger for every giant brand. The strongest companies do not fall only because competitors attack them. Sometimes they fall because they become confused about what customers were actually buying. McDonald's thought it was selling food, then it learned it was selling certainty. Now it is learning something harsher. Certainty disappears the moment the receipt feels like a betrayal. Break the bargain long enough, and even the most famous restaurant on earth starts looking optional. The cheapest meal in America became expensive. And that may be the most dangerous price increase of all.